Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. As the dispute between Rakesh Gangwal and Rahul Bhatia, the promoters of Indigo, comes out in the open and more dirty linen is washed, there are two bones of contention between the two, and one of them relates to what we call related party transactions. As per Gangwal, the company under Rahul Bhatia has entered into dozens of transactions with related parties of Rahul Bhatia Group, which he says were not even approved by the audit committee. And that's where he says that there could be questionable transactions not in the best interest of the airline. So related party transactions is becoming a key issue in every fraud, every situation of manipulated accounts, every case of violation of law, every case of siphoning of funds, every case of diversion of funds. It seems to be the key modus operandi. Let us look at some of the very well-known cases. Just yesterday, the newspapers reported that the Enforcement Directorate conducted an investigation in the case of Unitech. And what is found? Related party transactions with entities abroad, 1600 crores defrauded by the promoters of Unitech. Take the case of DHFL, which now seems to be doddering. As per Cobra Post, the promoters of DHFL have siphoned away a huge sum of 35,000 crores out of or through the medium of related party transactions, and most of it again went overseas. Or take the case of ILFS. ILFS managed to show a rosy financial position. It also managed to show a net worth, a positive net worth, even though it was a negative net worth. And they did that by way of money rooted by the company through its related parties, which came back in the form of bogus capital. Take the case of Jet Airways. Again, a newspaper reports that as per the forensic audit going on Jet Airways, hundreds of crores have been siphoned away through Jet Life and other related parties of Naresh Goel situated overseas. Again, a case of siphoning of money through related party transactions. Take the case of Bhushan Steel and Power. Thousands of crores taken away by the promoters through related parties, and CBI has filed a case against them. Or take the well-known case of Manpasand Beverages. Manpasand Beverages has been in the news again for all the wrong reasons, and the center point of it is related party transactions. The company, the promoters of Manpasand, have floated 30 bogus entities all over India, and through them they booked a bogus turnover of 300 crores. During that period, the turnover of Manpasand was 718 crores. Out of that, 300 crores was bogus turnover through related parties. They managed to show a bogus profit also. And finally, the promoters, the CFO, the managing director and other officials got arrested because it claimed a bogus GST input credit of 40 crores. Entire scam through related party transactions. In fact, what we are also noticing is most of the banks who managed to launder their balance sheets, managed to show rosy pictures, managed to not show NPA accounts which had already taken place, even they ended up conducting transactions which were bogus through related parties of the borrowers. So this related party transaction has been a favorite route. The question is, what is a related party transaction? As the word goes, it's pretty simple. The promoters of a company, they promote their entities controlled by them or their relatives directly or indirectly. These are called related parties related to the promoters. And when a company does transactions with these parties, we call them related party transactions. Now, if an entity is controlled by the promoters of the company, it is so easy to window dress transactions. It is so easy for the company to withdraw money and take it away, which is what has happened in every case. So you have related parties controlled either directly or indirectly by the promoters and their relatives. Money is siphoned away in the form of bogus expenses that are shown to be have incurred but which were never expenses. This has taken place in the Reliance Group in a good way. Or loans and advances are given under very sweetheart conditions. The money never came back. That has been reported in Reliance Communications under a forensic audit conducted by SBI. 4,000 crores given to an entity called Netizen, and that money never came back. It was called a capital advance given. So you can conduct any transaction with a related party, trying to call it sales, trying to call it purchases, trying to call it profits, trying to call it advances. In reality, they are just means of siphoning money away. And that can be done through related parties situated in India or abroad. As I said, both sides of the transaction are by the same person, which is the promoter of the company, and he uses it to window dress the entire financial statements of the company. Take the instance of Mehul Chokshi, Nirav Modi, Jatin Mehta of Winsome Diamonds. Take the case of Sandesh Saras of Sterling Biotech. Take the case of Unitech. All of them have siphoned money away from India through related parties based abroad. Nirav Modi did it in a huge way, Mehul Chokshi did it in a huge way, and their entities were based in Dubai and China in particular. Money gone out of India, hawala deals conducted. So related party transactions is a favorite route for siphoning money out of the company, manipulating the balance sheets and financial statements. But then, does the law prohibit them? The law truly doesn't prohibit a related party transaction, but it says that wherever there is a related party transaction, it must be approved by the independent directors of the company who sit on the audit committee. The law also says that wherever there are related party transactions, report them. The directors have conducted them, the shareholders ought to know them. The sad part is that they did not get reported. Now, conducting a related party transaction is not that simple. It can take place only if there is connivance of the auditors, of the bankers, of the independent directors and of the top officials of the company. Only when they collude, only when they are willing to compromise their independence and integrity, that a related party transaction can really take place. In other words, if these transactions took place in India in such a dubious and scammy manner so far, it was because the entire system colluded. While the directors were the prime originators and beneficiaries of such transactions, even the auditors were beneficiaries, as we saw in the case of ILFS and almost every other entity. So it is a system that colluded together to permit these transactions. It went unreported, unnoticed for all these years because the government was not taking any action. But when the entire curse of related party transactions became too big to be ignored, now action is being taken. Auditors are being taken to task, promoters are being jailed, they are being investigated, cases are being filed, and thus now the scene has changed. Related party transactions are not going to be the favorite vehicle for manipulating financial statements and defrauding companies. Is it only corporate India that conducts these kind of related party transactions? According to us, no. One of the biggest domains of related party transactions which are dubious is the government itself. It is so many related parties of the babus and the netas which are given contracts where the government is taken for a ride. So it is not just corporates. The government is one of the biggest platforms that perpetrates related party transactions by which public money is lost. Yet another way by which the government conducts related party transactions is by doctoring the fiscal deficit of the country. So the government will not borrow money, but the Food Corporation of India will borrow the money and pay for the government's food subsidy bill. The government does not have the money to incur the expenditure, but the railways will do it. And in this process, the government's finances, the government's figures are manipulated, and thus the finance minister then reports that the fiscal deficit is in control. So the government is the biggest perpetrator of related party transactions. Perhaps the corporates just caught on and learned from them. There seems to be increased surveillance and accountability on the corporates. But if that doesn't happen in the case of the government, this scourge will continue. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.